Okay, so today I'm just going to talk about some common styles or classes that I use. Personally, I actually keep a plugin which I put all of my JavaScripts and common styles into, which I don't release because it's just things that I use and I don't want to have to get into a whole support loop. So what I'll do is I'll show you some of the things that I use, and as I create styles and themes and JavaScripts and all this sort of stuff, what I have is some pages where I detail and document how those work. What I'm going to do in this video today is just talk about two of those, which is these underlines that you get. So that's a underline with my primary color, underline with my secondary color, underline with my accent color, and all three of them are different heights. Now, the way we do that is we wrap a span in with a class wpg for wp-get dash underline, and we give it a style of what do we want the height to be. You can't tell on the screen, but that's actually two dashes or two minuses. So what do we want the height to be and what do we want the color to be? Now that's an example. So here I want this to be my primary color, so I'm setting the height to 2 rem, and I'm using my variable, which is a global color that's set by Elementor global colors. So this can be a hex value, RGB value, a variable that's already been set. In my case, I just wanted to show the primary, secondary, and accent variables used for this. So then the next section I'll talk about is the same kind of thing, but using it as a block background instead of an underline. Very, very similar. In this case, I'm just calling it wpg-underline. Sorry, I need to update that. It should be called wpg-block. And instead of having a height, I'm setting a padding on it of, in this case, 0.4 rem, 0.8 rem, so I get some more padding around there, and 1.5 rem to give us even more padding again. And again, specifying the color as my globals. So heading over to how this actually works. So if we have a look at this first heading widget, all I've done is, as I said, I've wrapped it in a span, and I've given that, I might just bring that across a bit so it's a little bit easier to read. So it's wrapped in a span with wpg-underline class. I've set my height to 0.2 rem, again it's two dashes, semicolon, sorry. My color to the primary color, and then I end the span around the text heading, which gives me just the wrap around there, and the rest of the text is unaffected. So get exactly the same for this one. In this case, it's 0.4 rem as a height, and my secondary color. This one, it's 0.6 rem with my accent color. So looking at these blocks here, again it's wpg block with my padding of 4 rem primary color, padding of 0.8 rem secondary color, and padding of 1.5 rem with my accent color. So hopping over to the CSS, it's actually quite simple CSS. So we'll look at my custom CSS here. So basically I'm just looking at these classes here. So my wpg underline, so it sets the span around this to a relative position. I then create an absolutely aligned before element. I'm setting the bottom to -2 or 0.2 rem, and that's to, with fonts, often you have this trailing, like in this case the G or a Y, and it comes down a little bit. So I've just picked 0.2 rem to drag that down. I've actually noticed a problem here which I need to fix as well when it's wrapping, so we might have to do a white space no wrap. In fact, I might just do that now. So I'm going to put in here a white space no wrap, and that hasn't fixed this, so I need to look at why that is. Oh, sorry, that is correct. That's wrapping around from the end. So we probably need to put some line height on this if we are going to have that wrap around, because this is down below that, so we'll come back to that. very laggy for some reason today with this. All right, so basically what I'm doing with the after, which is the line, I'm setting the Z index to -1. That's so that it goes behind the text. And there's a little caveat with that, which we'll talk about as well, where when you've got a color in the background of the section. Now, we could set the Z index on that to say 2, to stick it up above everything. I wonder what this will happen if I actually comment that out. I'm just going to check that. There we go, it doesn't work. So I've got to set that as a Z index of -1 so that it goes behind, even though it's in the before. Not exactly sure why that is, but if we do it in the after, I can understand that, but doing it before, I would have thought it would actually appear on top. Anyway, so we set it to the bottom of -2.2 rem, left of 0, we set the width to 100%, we set the height to the variable that we set in here. So in this case, it was the height of 0.2 rem, and the background color to the color variable we set in that span. That's pretty much all there is to it. So each of these just defines their own height and color, and these two rules here are all that's required to make that happen. So going down to the block, so it's pretty much the same, except for we need to set it to inline-block because it's a span, so it doesn't have any block attributes yet. So we need to set it to an inline-block so we can get some block attributes like padding. We set the padding to whatever we set over here on the padding on the style. We set the line height to 1. Actually, I don't think that made any difference. We can take that out. So we set the padding there, and then the rest of this is pretty much the same, except for the height is 100% instead of the whatever the height is set in the style. That's pretty much all there is to it. Now, but yeah, so that's a very, very simple way of doing this without having to use any special widgets or plugins. You could use this in text blocks, headings, anywhere where you would put in a title. In fact, I'm just going to try one thing here. For example, if I add, I know I'm waffling, I tend to waffle, sorry guys. If I add a icon list, okay, colors are wrong. I'll just set the color on that too. Where are we? Okay, so I've got a list of items here. I could take this same block, say for example I want that primary block there. We'll just grab that span setting there. Now coming back to here. And let's say I want to put that around the word, the number 1. I could easily add that there. And now I've got a block around the list item with the number 1. So you can use the span anywhere. If I want it underlined, let's check that. So I'll go back to an underline. Let's say we want to underline that. I'm just going to copy this here, go back to my list items, and I'm just going to pick number 3. I'm going to add that to number 3. Now we've got an underline under number 3. Don't want it to be color primary, want it to be secondary. Now the secondary color is an underline. Bit too high, let's make it a smaller one, make it 0.1 rem. Want it really fat, make it 0.5 rem. So easily control these underlines and blocks just by setting these variables in the style attribute. So I think it's a great way of doing this, and makes it extremely flexible. So hopefully that's been something that you can use in your designs, and look forward to seeing anything that you do with it, or feedback as if you think I need to do anything differently. Thank you.